Here to discuss all of it, Jonathan Fahey, former federal prosecutor, former acting ICE director under President Trump. Sir, good to have you back with us.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's a new day, isn't it? A new day in America. A new administration makes quite a change.
It's amazing, just to think this is only day 4 of this, and the first day was a lot of ceremonial stuff, and it's like we are already taking control of the border, already removing the most serious criminals. And that last clip you had of the person that said the unfavorable things about Trump, it really says everything you need to know about what the previous administration was versus the current one. The previous administration fought to keep people like that in the country. They fought to keep sex offenders, gang members. They supported sanctuary cities. It's truly we talked about it so many times, but it's so mind-boggling that's their fault line is serious criminals. They still fought to keep them in, and it just shows in 3 or 4 days. You see what the people that Bill Melugin is talking about, but you also see the numbers on the southern border. I think they've already dropped. The daily numbers are down around 700 a day after just 4 days. And now that we have the military going on there, and the message is very clear, I think it's not going to be misunderstood. The numbers are going to be almost nil, I think, probably within a month or so. And now we can start moving and putting the resources on getting rid of the serious criminals here, which, as you know, is what that ICE letter from August was. 660,000 people are in this country illegally that have criminal records, and the Biden administration couldn't have cared less about deporting them.
So that gets to my next question, which is, didn't the Biden administration know about some of the guys you just heard in that audio? Didn't the Biden administration know that we had murderers, rapists, gangsters, drug dealers illegally here in the United States, and they just let them run free? Because it's not like the Trump administration just suddenly discovered this. They arrived and they looked at the database and they said, we've got to pick these bad guys up, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's such a good point because, they've only been in office, 3 or 4 days. So these were people that were known to ICE before this, because it wouldn't be possible for them to show up and all of a sudden know where everyone is. So these are people that were known to Joe Biden's, DHS, his DOJ, and they weren't doing anything about it. I mean, they wouldn't even arrest the serious criminals. They let the sanctuary cities let all these people go and never said boo about it. And it was just so disgraceful. And like we've talked about on the show about Laken Riley, there were so many times her life could have been saved, but they chose open borders ahead of public safety every single time. And we know why they were doing it. They were doing it for political reasons. And you see, it proves to be true now, because now the Democrats are fighting these things that are totally common sense, that things like remain in Mexico or these ICE raids. They're going to try to say, they're going to arrest people at schools and hospitals because Trump they changed the policy that restricted where arrests could take place. And so if they really were supportive, like you see some of these senators on the Hill questioning people about suggesting they were tough on the border with all these bills they were going to pass, but they're going to fight Donald Trump tooth and nail on every single deportation. But I think they've lost the plot on this issue, and they're starting to, you saw about 12 or 13 senators voted for the Laken Riley bill, which we would not have seen that 6 months ago. It would have been it was 50 out of 50 or how many they had.
No, you're totally right about that. And thank goodness. I mean, I think the American people spoke, and at least some of the Democrats have gotten the message on this subject. And so that's great news. The Laken Riley Act going to the president's desk now. The ICE agents, you were the acting ICE director, Jonathan Fahey. How big of a deal is this that the handcuffs have been taken off of the ICE agents, that they're allowed to actually do their job now? What does that mean for morale?
I think morale is probably through the roof. I mean, to think about it, they had been in these jobs where the people that were in charge of them actually hated them and wanted them to fail and didn't care if they put them at risk. We saw that with, the Border Patrol agents that were accused of whipping migrants and things like that. We're crushing the morale. They are so happy to have one, to be able to do their jobs because they know their jobs are important for public safety, but two, to have people that support them. And you need leadership that supports you. And it's been such an unbelievable disgrace what's gone on for the last 4 years. I think they're going to be so happy, so productive. And the other thing that's great about it is they're going to be able to recruit again because, the last 4 years, no one would want to go into these agencies knowing how they're treated and knowing how their mission is treated. So
Yes.
it's going to really be a force multiplier because they can work with the locals and, they get to make the country safer, which is what they signed up for.
The other piece that I'm concerned about is the risk that exists for these ICE agents. So now that it's very public what's happening, you've got a lot of raids on the bad guys going on all across the country, which means that ICE agents may be entering into spaces that are in some ways prepared for them, quite unfortunately, as some of these very violent illegals may want to barricade or shoot back. I'm concerned about this. What's the safety situation for these ICE agents as they conduct these raids?
Yeah, that's a great point, and it's another great point against the sanctuary cities because what these ICE agents are forced to do because these sanctuary cities release criminals back in the community as opposed to comply with an ICE detainer, which would allow them to arrest them in a jail where they're safe. Yeah, so they're going to be at far greater risk. And, not only the people are going to arrest, but the other people that might be with them that are also illegal, which ICE is going to arrest. So these agents, every day, they're walking into danger. And most of this danger is caused, or a lot of it is caused by these sanctuary city policies that, take away safe places for arrests to be made.
Yeah.
Which, if you're doing an arrest, you want to arrest where it's safe, where they won't have weapons, all of these things. And, they've taken that away for, cynical political reasons.
Yep.
And it's just, and mostly, the media portray sanctuary cities as if they're protecting the kindergartners from ICE raids. That's what you get in the news media. So it's really, but they're actually protecting the child molester, the murderer, these other people, the gang member from being deported, which is just stunning and staggering and just totally awful.
Yes, that's right. And they're using the children as shields to continue this awful policy. Well, thank you, Jonathan Fahey, acting ICE director, former acting ICE director, and former federal prosecutor. Sir, always nice to talk to you on this subject. Really appreciate that today.